very good evening and welcome to another great episode of the First 15. Colin Chinga is not with us today. He's off to the UK, so I'm taking over today. Once again, the regulars are here. Kobani Bobo, Hanyani Shimang and Victor Matfield. They're joining me. And on Skype today to talk a bit of Six Nation, it's Robbie Kempson all the way from Port Elizabeth. What a week we've had last weekend. Let's find out more on First 15. Rugby is such a funny game, you know. All the picks of Super Brew go haywire at the end of the Saturday because nobody can just get it right. But gentlemen, what a week we had last weekend. Some disappointments and some great wins if you look back in terms of what happened. But Victor, what stood out for you last week?
Yeah, first in the Six Nations, of course, Ireland winning it. England losing, that was a big surprise. But looking at the South African teams, probably a little bit disappointing. The Lions should have won it quite comfortably. I think they threw that game away. And then again, the Stormers and the Bulls overseas not quite getting there. But the Sharks played all right. I think they got a big win. They're going overseas this week, so let's hope they can do something special overseas as well.
Shimmy, all the way from Cape Town, welcome back. But you've done some travelling. You gave back a bit to the beautiful game of rugby.
Yeah, I got the privilege of going to see the guys up in Nairobi, KCB Rugby Club, playing in the Kenya Cup semi-finals. Got the jersey here, so just good luck to the guys up there. I know they're big fans of First 15. And Owen Kumani, I think they're happy that you've taken Cola's seat there, so congratulations.
No,
I made that up, but good luck to the guys up there for the semi-final.
Let's quickly touch on Kenya. I mean, they made it to the final of Vancouver in the sevens. I mean, any stars that you picked up, you saw in the week, you thought in a couple of years, guys could come through?
Look, the rugby culture is massive. I went to watch one of the club games, and some really big guys, some physical rugby. And to pick out names would be unfair, but just really, I think just the atmosphere, the love of rugby there is there. And if any time when you've got time to go up there, go see what's happening up there. Some big things happening in rugby, and obviously they're pushing to try to qualify for the World Cup. But first, club semis, and good luck to KCB.
Well, I've got an easy job. A name to pick out, Kobani Bobo. Yeah, you're the regular, yeah. Welcome. Thank you for allowing us in your home, yeah.
It's good, man.
What happened last week?
Last week, for me, what was quite big was Ireland. Ireland actually been unbeaten in Aviva for last 5 years. Yeah. 29 games, 22 wins, 7 losses, 2 draws. They really are on the good progress towards the under-19. But for me, another thing that was quite evident over the weekend was in terms of the defensive patterns of teams that are using, and especially the role of a 9 from the New Zealand teams and how we use it. I mean, with the Lions, we got Ross always defending on the blind, and then with the New Zealanders, always behind the ruck, which they have some pros and cons, something that we'll look at.
All right, so Kobani Bobo will take some time, take us through the touchscreen in terms of detail, what he picked up on the weekend. I'm very concerned, once again, we're comparing our players to the New Zealand players. What have you got, Bobs?
Not really comparing. I mean, if we can look at it here, there was a kick from the Stormers. They had 4 guys back, the Highlanders, and this is where they start to build their attack. So for me here, it's always about identifying where the 9 is and what's his role from the Stormers. The Stormers use their 9 traditionally similar to what the New Zealanders do, but you need a bit more vocal. I thought that, as you can see there with Duurvald, he's always working on that sort of sweeping role, and then at the end sort of fills in. There again, you can pick him up. It's like that's the sort of trend that we defend, and the Stormers have always defended similar to what the New Zealanders do.
What happens when you get a guy and a player, he's a good player, but he's not vocal? Will he not be able to fit this role defensively?
I just think, you know, communication is important, as being strong in the gym, as being able to pass and everything. Communication is a huge aspect of rugby. You look at how Aaron Smith, you know, so the scrum half is basically the equivalent of a cox behind, you know, the ruck, communicating for the big boys, telling them where to go. So if you see a neat picture, it's a scrum half that's got to marshal that and get them into position.
Yeah, so you've got the 2 ways of using your 9. The first one is like we see here with Smith here, where he's behind the ruck, and then he organized the defense around the ruck. But if it's necessary, you'll always plug in there. Yeah. You don't always want your 9 to make it, but if it's necessary, he'll plug in there. But then he'll also get on, he'll also be there for the chip as well. And then you got the South African way, where you defend with your 9, actually on the wing. So he's almost part of the wings on strings. So
I know how we got there. There's a colleague of ours I knew he never wanted to tackle. Had a very vocal on the pitch, guy like Werner Swanepoel. I can imagine when they said, you know what, just talk them up. We don't really want you to plug in, stay out in the wing. I think that role was created for him.
It does work for them, and especially for the New Zealanders, because now you've got your line set. Yeah. Everyone is coming up, pushing with the pressure, and then in that way you can get your line speed, and then you do pick up some opportunities, especially with the defense. If you have a defensive line that is set, and the players sort of know what their roles is, and even from the turnover, your first guy to get that ball is a 9. Easy decision maker, gets the ball out, and then you can counter-attack from there. So that is what was quite evident on how the New Zealanders do it.
And I must say, if you've got a scrum like Perenara from the Hurricanes, he's so big and strong. If he needs to plug in there, he can make the tackles. He goes low, he gets him on the ground, and then the Steelers get in as well.
And then for me, Owen, how the Blues sort of finished the game against the Lions.
Finished?
They closed it. I mean, if you look from here, they started this scrum inside their own 10-meter line, and then the way that they got the advantage line, I mean, this Steven Perfetta is a special player. Yeah. And that was clinical play, just simple things done here, sure.
Yeah, but the key thing is, the Blues are owning the ball, they're dominating the gain line, and the Lions were forced to make plenty of tackles, which isn't really the Lions' philosophy. They generally hold on to the ball. I felt that the Lions probably tried to finish off the Blues, but they got themselves into trouble, and this gave them opportunities. But look at that, the passing, the offloading, the continuity, the cleaning. That's exactly what you want to see from a Blues team. But this is a special player from Sonny Bill Williams, an elite international, established heavyweight. But exactly, look at that.
You can pick it up. There's 2 forwards in front of the backs, and they're going to make the yards. And not to force the pass here, Vic. It's good for the Blues because that shows patience.
Yeah, if you look at the Lions, firstly, all their shoulders were turned. They weren't in position. They didn't slow the ball down on the ground. But this was normally the problem from the Blues. They make plenty of line breaks, but they can't hold on to the ball. They force that last pass. They just hold on to it. Another phase, and I think some of our South African teams can learn from that as well. And they scored a try, and a great win for them.
Well, this chat started, gentlemen. You talked about closing up games. I mean, I know it's very early, and I don't want to be that guy who's negative. The Stormers were in control at one stage. I think it was against the Waratahs. I mean, the game they could have shut it off. Is it an experience thing? What do you put it down to, being able to close the game?
I think it also comes down to your game managers. Your fly-off, stepping back in the pocket, maybe going for the corners. We saw the Lions against the Bulls when, it got a bit shaky. What do? Give it to the forwards, we're going to maul, and all of a sudden the maul won them the game, and then the running came. Yeah. So it's all the game managers, the leaders within the team that will come with the strategy.
A very good point from Shimang. 7 days later, in a similar position, Victor, the Lions can't do it.
Yes, I know, and I've worked with them a little bit last year, and the Lions got this thing in their head. They just want to score tries. They play rugby because they score tries, but there's different ways in scoring tries. Yeah. I really believe if you 14, 15 points ahead, why do you want to put yourself under pressure and play out of your own half? That's when you want to push them in their corners. You can push up your defense. You don't have to have 2-3 guys back because they need to play, and that's when you force them to make that mistake. And when they make that mistake, you score 3 or 5 or 7 points. Yeah. And that's what they talk about, scoreboard pressure, and that's what you want to do.
Yeah. I think the fundamentals remain the same. The Bulls are running the ball a lot. But Victor, when you were there, what was good? The scrum, the line out, so the defense, the fundamentals remain the same. You might have a good running game, but you've got to have a strong maul and a strong scrum. And that's where probably the Lions could have used that a bit more to sort of shut it down.
And then, Bobs, we need to clarify this early on in the season. We're not shooting holes in our system. We're just always looking for a better result and better performance from our teams.
Yeah, it's all about picking up those traits and trends, because at the same time, you can use that as an opportunity, because now you know that the one player that is plugging in that hole is a scrum off. So that is an opportunity where we can make yards as our side. That means that we can come back on the switches so that we isolate those smaller defenders. We run at them in that way. Part of what they want to do from the turnover plays, play with their 9. So their 9 makes the tackle. Now the 9 is out of the game. Now we're on the front foot. So that is why we sort of look at these trends and traits.
We're talking about trends and changes. Later on, we'll be chatting about the breakdown point in terms of Fetcher role. Has that changed? What has happened? And remember as well, 9th of June, Ellis Park, first test match against England. And Robbie Kempson will be joining us after the break to talk more in detail what he's seen from the England camp.